Alright, and next we've got the sequel to Pac-Man, Ms.Pac.
Ms.Pac? Because of Ms.Pac, try to find yourselves a Pac-Man arcade machine in the wild. Try. You may be able to find one, but never two.
But in its defense, Ms.Pac.'s really, really good.
Why? The sequel is what? A bow? Different maze combinations?
Different mazes. Bouncing fruit.
Bouncing fruit? Faster speed?
Yes, it was a bit faster. And
Not sanctioned by Namco?
no, as far as I remember, they were actually quite upset when that was first released. It actually took them a long time to lovingly accept it into their mythos, but yes, I believe the original creator of Pac-Man was actually quite upset that this American division has decided to take his project and completely change it around.
His project was a pizza with one slice missing, so I don't think he should get too concerned.
That's right.
And he did call it Pac Man, so...
Yeah. And listen, the Japanese have been improving American things for years, so it's about time it went the other way around at least once.
Oh my god, Ms.Pac. Whatever.
That was actually the game that got my dad more into playing video games than me, actually, back at the time. He was okay at it, but he played it consistently, and now it's crazy. You watch these guys who just memorize the patterns, of every single bloody board, and just the massive amount of memorization. That is a perfect game that represents old school gaming, what it was all about. It was about reflexes and memorization. If you knew exactly where the ghosts were going to be at a certain time and where you had to be at a certain time, you could go multiple levels with never dying and getting everything. But my limited memory capacity, never able to do that.
And you're gonna have bragging rights because you had the top score. Okay, let's talk Turbo. Turbo was a racing game by Sega. It was an arcade game. Apparently wasn't a very popular game, but it was the grandfather, as we observed and wept, to Outrun,
Hang on.
and pretty much every other racing game. Super Monaco Grand Prix.
Ah, excellent, yeah.
So in 1981, graphics weren't very advanced, but this was, this was colorful, varying environments. The car could move not only left and right, but forwards and backwards on the screen on the road.
And there was like day and night changes. And the one thing that always blew me away, even younger, and especially now, even looking back at it now, especially like 81, that's so long ago, the scaling effects were incredible.
Yeah, the race starts off, and I guess you're right in the middle of downtown or something, and there's buildings on either side, and just as you're starting to drive, they're just kind of like coming right at you.
Yeah, and even like they even adjust a bit for the perspective, and that's just blows me away. And then when you go through the tunnel,
Yeah, there's tunnels. There's two different types of tunnels too, or was that other one nighttime? I'm not too sure, but we'll just call it a tunnel. You had mountains, you had a bridge, you had a city,
and like a high, almost like a refinery wall kind of thing you're driving by, and they put these black lines on it to really, give you the perspective. And that was really forward thinking for 81, where most games were still one static screen and one overhead, usually an overhead perspective, and that was it. And here comes this game that's throwing 3D sprite scaling at you in 81.
Who's the company that made that?
Oh yeah, this is Sega.
Yeah.
Okay, so nowadays we're super spoiled by games with the storylines. We now literally take it for granted because there's giant cutscenes and these pre-rendered or in-game engine things that are just amazing, and the storytelling is almost the most important part of a game now. But obviously back in the early days, storytelling was either non-existent or just a simple, rescue
the green block.
Yeah.
Rescue the green block.
Yeah, exactly, that's all it was. So when Yars Revenge came out on the 2600, the creators actually came up with a story, and of course, with limited memory and abilities on the system, you couldn't do a cutscene or a big storyline or even a scrolling text. So the instructions, check this out. They actually have a full-fledged story going on here, which covers a couple pages.
Wow.
Which is, you know, actually more than some games nowadays.
Yeah, I'm like blown away. This is the first time I'm looking at this, and it's kind of nice to see like this quality of instruction book with seven versions, 7 languages: English, French, German, Italian, Spanish. So there's only 5, but it says 7 video games. 7. I have no idea what that is. But I don't know, it's cool. And I think the thing I like the most about the old games is just how ridiculously awesome the box art is.
Yeah, because when you compare it to the actual game, obviously everything was so primitive back then, and you really had to use your imagination, like really had to use your imagination.
I think it's a great tool, because I'm not really ripping on how bad how simple graphics were back in the day. I'm ripping on how bad boxes got.
Yes.
So this is almost like an example of this. Like I look at this and I think of an 80s rock band called Saga. You remember them?
Oh,
70s, 80s? Yeah, you see that?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. But this is, exactly what this was, because since you had to use your imagination so much, this is them helping you. Like, this is how you envisioned your little blocky pixel moving back and forth. When I was playing Yars Revenge when I was a kid, this is what I envisioned for sure.
Were you eating acid? Then Ultima and Wizardry came out. Like, Dungeons and Dragons wasn't bad enough, preventing countless of tens of thousands of teenage boys from getting laid. This crap was dropped in their laps. It was so captivating. I'm surprised we're alive today.
That is true.
I'm surprised that the world continued.
And the King Nerd himself, Richard Garriott, he felt it necessary to shine his everlasting wisdom upon the masses.
What was his wisdom? Birth control? Because no guy that played this game would ever get laid. Ever. I don't even care if you're not putting this in there. I don't understand. I don't understand. Ultima wasn't good until you can basically slaughter an entire town and drag all the bodies into the center of town and then create the imaginary lake of blood. But you knew it was there if it was real life because you're just fucking hacking. Just fucking hacking. Fuck.